Hello. Welcome back to another episode of CXO Conversations. I'm Klaudia Tirico, editor of Demand Gen Report, and with me today is Latané Conant, CMO of 6sense. Latané, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Klaudia.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm really excited to talk about all things ABM and 6sense for today's episode, and I know you are the person to talk to. So obviously ABM was has been a big deal. It was huge in 2020 specifically. I know there's research from ITSMA that showed like 76% or so of marketers saw higher ROI with ABM than any other marketing strategy in that, dumpster fire that was 2020. So, we have all these buyer priorities constantly changing at very rapid speeds. Timelines and relevance are key in this digital age and all that fun stuff. And I know ABM really plays a huge role there. So given that 6sense is one of our, the leading platforms for ABM and account-based engagement, I'd love to hear your take on the importance of ABM in these times and how COVID-19 kind of really accelerated that need for account-based strategies.
Sure. So what we see in our customer base is ABM, when applied correctly, and that's an important caveat, but when applied correctly, we see tremendous results. New pipeline generation, so anywhere from a 40 to 50% increase in pipeline. We see much faster cycle times, so 2 times increase in cycle times. We see bigger deal sizes, and we see 75% better conversions. This is really important because those fundamentals that I talked about, those are the fundamentals of efficiently and effectively creating revenue. Mm-hmm. And so now let's go back to ABM and your question about today. And I said, when applied correctly. And the key to doing a nice job with account-based is data, a 360-degree view of an account. And having great data and then being able to segment that data and really understand. And great marketing has always been about segmentation and audiences and now working with sales around territory design. But a lot of times we like to skip that and start talking about the tactic. We're going to do a direct mail package. We're going to customize our website. Those things are actually the easier part. The most important part to get right is the segmentation and the data. What accounts, why? And make sure there's alignment with that on through to sales. And if you do that right, you will see tremendous results, 100%.
Awesome. Any tips? Obviously our audience loves, actionable tips, takeaways. What can they do to really deliver authentic ABM plays? What should they be focusing on with that data? How should they, make sure that they're leveraging that data to its fullest potential, especially with all of these physical engagements obviously still on pause. We don't have events yet. Everything's virtual and digital. What advice would you give?
So I really am drawn to the term relevance. And so what was interesting was when, March hit, everyone said, oh my gosh, we have to sell with empathy. We need to do a better job knowing our ICP. We need to know who's still in market. We need to make sure we're not just like randomly reaching out. We need to turn off all of our, automated emails. And I'm like, everyone around you is freaking out. And I'm, a excitable lady. When everyone around you is freaking out, you're like, we need to do all of that. So for like a day, I was like, oh my God. And then, I slept on it and I realized this is so strange. We already do all of this. because we launched a program, God, it's been like 2 years ago now, called Project Bold Moves. And this is what I actually wrote a book about. So I wrote a book called No Forms, No Spam, No Cold Calls, The Future of Account-Based Sales and Marketing. And the challenge that I put out to my team through Project Bold Moves was to put prospects at the center of our process. Not leads, not emails, not forms, not cold calls, but prospects and their buying journey. And in doing this, we when you force that, all of a sudden you set up a lot of things. You set up dynamic territories and a dynamic ICP. So when the pandemic hit, my ICP, the AI just automatically adjusted. I didn't need to sit there and worry about reaching out to accounts because the AI adjusted and told me which accounts were still in market. The other thing that this kind of putting prospects first requires is not a bunch of automated crap, right? It's about watching their behavior, and based on their behavior dictates the next step. Okay? And so that drives relevance. And I think relevance is made up, and this is the challenge that we put on ourselves at 6sense, by a few things. One, your message needs to be personalized for timing. So someone early stage is going to care and have a different need than someone later stage. They're going to have a different buying job, if you subscribe to Brett Adamson, that they're trying to do. So you have to be able to understand that, so you marry up the right helpful guide or helpful content based on their timing. You need to understand the persona. Who is the persona? You need to understand the keyword that they're researching. And so what we do is we marry, okay, if their keyword is predictive analytics and they're in marketing ops, they probably care about lead quality and lead scoring. So that's what we're going to talk to them about. If it's a CMO, they might care about, optimizing pipeline generation, right? If it's a CRO and it's predictive analytics, they probably care about forecasting accuracy. So making sure, again, we're taking the keyword, marrying it to the persona, and we're offering the right help at the right time. And when those things come together, all of a sudden you're relevant. And I think people get overly zealous with the word personalization. And that can be kind of a parlor trick. I know your name. I stalked your LinkedIn. You went to UVA. Great. That doesn't mean you're relevant. And I think that relevance is what wins and breaks through the noise, because we're all just kind of grinding and trying to get our job done. And if you offer me help and something that I am looking for and need, boom, that's it. That's the formula.
Awesome. And obviously it's, not about that form fill either. I mean, I know you mentioned form fills. Just because they filled out a form does not mean that there's relevancy there, right? Yeah.
It's my book.
That's a good looking book there.
Yeah, I think the graphic turned out nice.
All right, I want to get into another topic, and I know you touched on it. AI, obviously another buzzword. And last year, 6sense raised like $40 million in Series C funding, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's great. And from our coverage, we learned that you were looking to really invest in AI-driven orchestration capabilities. So, can you tell me a little bit about that? How does AI and orchestration really play this role in next level ABM?
So, we all want to feel as though we understand the buyer's journey, which is why we've all sat in conference rooms with whiteboards when that was a thing, and bought a lot of Post-it notes and tried to map out, they're going to do this piece of content, and then they're going to come to a webinar, and then we're going to call them, and then that. And it feels good to put that Post-it note up and think we know what's going on. But the reality is it's a total hairball. And there's, 9 some people involved in a buying committee. And they're all doing all kinds of different things all the time. But they are leaving a signal, they're leaving data, they're leaving patterns. And I think for us as humans and as marketers to try to think that in any way, shape, or form, we can take Post-it notes or now a Mira board or whatever and try to map this out and try to guess. That's what we're doing. We're guessing. And so, and we're guessing, and then we're doing the logic of if they do this, then I think this should happen. If then. And that's not the future, because the patterns are there, the AI is smart enough. And so the future is me looking at my revenue operating model and saying, gosh, I need to more effectively unlock TAM. Help me, 6sense, reach this new TAM. That's my goal. And this is my budget. And these are all the programs I have going that you can tap into to do this. And then 6sense says, okay, these are the programs I would recommend based on what's worked before, based on what's going on with this audience. Do you approve? Do you want to do that? And here's the budget. Okay, great. So it's marketers being able to look at, again, their revenue operating model, think about their market, think about their objective, and then be able to use the AI and the patterns to say, well, what is the best mix of content and of tactics to accomplish this goal? This is going to be groundbreaking for us because we work so hard right now. And I'm worried about our people. I mean, we work so hard. We put so much of our heart and soul into our content and our programs, and we have no really great way to optimize them. And so imagine this new world and that's where I want to put my heart and soul. I don't want to put my heart and soul guessing and making if-then logic. I want to make my programs as amazing as possible and then have a solution that helps me go and optimize and make sure it's reaching the audience and is giving me feedback on what I can improve. And so that's what we're talking about when we're talking about orchestration. And the challenge today is the data is very disparate. And so a critical factor of this being possible is the notion of an embedded CDP. And so being able to, in your account-based platform, have awesome data management to be able to bring in third-party data, anonymous data, known data to create that 360-degree view of an account and then glean patterns. So that's kind of the base that's sort of critical. Once you have that, again, the AI is going to get really, really smart, and you can just go and hook it up to the execution channels that you want to go and drive. I had a call this morning with a CRO, and she said, I don't know, I got campaigns in Pardot, I got campaigns in LinkedIn, I guess we do YouTube ads. We got some stuff on the website, we got a bot. It's all kind of working, but it's not connected at all. And I think if you asked a lot of marketers, they would say that's pretty darn true. And so it's having the right data layer and then being able to connect up all these channels so that it's just clicking. Yep, use this, use that, boom, let's go make it happen. So it's going to be like a renaissance. The next 2 years are going to be really exciting for marketers.
Oh, that's great. And, with that said, I feel like I know 6sense launched, a ton of new products in 2020, everything from, improving account-based marketing and sales around advertising and data orchestration. Can you give us like a high level, sneak peek or view of what some of these launches and integrations and how they've been used throughout the past year, throughout the pandemic, and how your customers have leveraged them and things like that?
Sure. So we don't talk a ton about our advertising module, and shame on me, I need to talk about it more.
Here's your
I'm
chance.
Yeah, I'm more of a data geek. So, but you just gravitate to what you're more inclined to. But we had a pretty big release in our advertising product to connect LinkedIn up, so you can natively do your targeting on LinkedIn within 6sense. And so again, going back to that orchestration capability and building those orchestration capabilities, we want to be able to have it as seamless and easy to plug into all of these different channels. So a lot of work around integrating, right? So making sure, sales loft, outreach, everything is all connected up. And so that's what you probably saw a ton of releases around that, and just making sure we were connected in all the places that we need to be connected. So that was a pretty big theme for us. I would say another big theme, and what I'm like most jazzed about, is we launched really robust capabilities around segment performance. And so as marketers, we have a constant need to show value. I joke that every time my CEO calls, I think I'm getting fired. It's just the nature of our game.
Yeah.
We spend and we need to show value all the time against all of our programs. And so what I love is, and often it's difficult to show value because we've rotated all to this form fill as like the end goal, when we know prospects don't want to fill out a form, and that's not an end goal. That's like one signal in the whole thing. And so, I talk about no forms and things like that, but I get why people feel, well, geez, I have to have something to show for my work, right? And so what I love about the segment analytics, this new reporting, is it very, very clearly shows you either at a kind of go-to-market segment level or even a very, very small segment level, whatever you design, it shows you exactly how accounts engaged, how engagement increased or decreased over whatever time period you deem. And then under it, it shows every single program that worked and how the programs worked. Because, and I'm not a crazy attribution gal, but I don't want to waste time or money. So there isn't, you have a fiduciary responsibility to be inspecting your programs and seeing what's driving the most engagement, what's the most effective given the goal. So again, pretty groundbreaking, I think, for marketers to be able to articulate and their work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it just sounds like we are ready to, well, not ready, but we're going to be getting a lot of awesome case studies and success stories from your customers with all of these product launches. And we have a whole side publication, ABM in Action, that covers all of that. So we should talk again in a few months for that, for sure.
John Whiteside at High Radius, he just presented on a CMO coffee talk for us. He's crushing. He'd be great to talk to.
Awesome. So I'd love to kind of shift the conversation over to the role of the CMO, because I know you've been somewhat vocal about this need for CMOs to take more ownership within the organization. For the audience, can you elaborate a little bit on that? Why must CMOs really consider to reinvent their roles, and why now?
So I guess to be clear, I'm not, I think the issue is not with CMOs.
Okay.
I think the issue is with CEOs and boards misunderstanding what marketing can do. And so it's about re-articulating the role and value and clarifying the role and value of marketing. And, you know, when I look at my CMO friends, I mean, they're working 60 hours a week. So I want to be clear. I'm not saying, oh, you're not doing enough.
Right. Of course not.
I'm not looking at you saying that. I'm looking at you saying, holy shit, this is too much. We've got to clarify and lock in on the most high value activities. And so when I think about that, like, okay, what is the most high value activity? Why does a company need a CMO versus maybe just a demand gen person, right? And I think ultimately the role of the CMO and what I've talked about is to be the voice at the table that understands the market. And that goes back to the answer to the very first question you had, which was around ABM and successful ABM. Well, forget about ABM. Successful go-to-market starts with the market. And so if you want to have a successful company, what do you need? You need a product. You need a sales team. You need to be able to service customers, ultimately, assuming you get some. But you need a market to go and sell a product to. And the first step of any Series A company is product market fit, right? And product market fit isn't something you do once. It's something you are always looking to do. So, you know, and I like to think of it more as problem market fit. So job one is of a chief market officer is to, what is the market telling us? Do we have problem market fit? How do I make sure that I'm working more collaboratively with my product team to make sure that we're building the right stuff and things are going in the right direction? You know, then you think about the next phase of growth once you establish that, and again, it's something that you're always establishing and reestablishing. Who are the ideal customers for us to sell to? Because that is going to help my sales team. That's the only thing sales has is their time. And so my job is to optimize that time by making sure that we're pointing the engine at the most ideal customers. So what does that look like? What's their intent signal? You know, how are we getting them in market? And then the last part is around next horizons of growth. So great, where is the total TAM? What's the total potential? And how do we prioritize going and unlocking new places so that we continue to grow? And so when you think about that, that's a lot more strategic than MQLs. And so and I think it's just redefining the good work that many CMOs are already doing. And when you define it like that, an investor or a CEO is going to say, God damn it, that's what I want. How would I survive without that? So that's what I talk about and am passionate about. And I think that might be the next book, is just more on that.
Awesome. Very interesting. And obviously the topic of alignment and collaboration has definitely come into the spotlight as well, now that everybody is working from home and not necessarily coming into the office every day or meeting with prospects, or, you know, marketing is not face-to-face with sales in the office or anything like that. So from your perspective at 6sense, what's going on with you and your team? How are you collaborating? How are you making sure that, you know, everyone is engaged and inspired and really just, you know, bringing the company in a good light?
It sucks. I'm so freaking
Why?
bummed.
I
I'm
know.
just bummed. I mean, like, and I'm doing my best to make it as cool as possible, right? But I mean, my nickname at home is more cowbell. I think everything needs more cowbell. And I love a good party. So I am missing putting my party pants on for sure.
I hear you.
And what do you do? Like, we're doing our best. We're running a spiff right now, a marketing spiff. So we've got a really like we really aggressively invested in product marketing. And so to kind of get everyone energized and going, I'm like, sales is not the only team that can have a spiff. Let's do a spiff. So we got all these cool prizes. And we organized people based on personas, and they've got 2 weeks to go and, blow our minds with what they come up with. And the winning team, wins. And they're cool. Like, it's like a solo stove. It's like portable speed. It's good prizes.
Cool.
So, I mean, I don't know. Like, you try to keep it light and fun. We're declaring snow days every now and then. But ultimately, whether you're going into work or not going into work, I think marketing teams thrive on feeling like they're doing really amazing work. And so I always think about saying no to say yes, and making sure that we're really focused on doing a few things like baller and amazing than doing a bunch of little dip-de-doos. Another ebook, another white paper, blah, blah, blah. Not that we don't do those things, but like, why are we doing it? Is it super cool? Is it different than how other people are doing it? And I know that's where I get my energy, and I think that's where our team gets our energy. So just really trying to be specific about feeling like we can contribute something that's going to win awards versus just kind of phoning it in.
Yeah, like quality over quantity for sure.
Yeah, like, I want to do cool stuff. So actually, I'm so proud. One of the things that we did, so we had our customer conference in December, and we created a mini series. So I love to do like little video stingers in
Yeah.
between content. It like keeps everyone pumped. And so one of the gentlemen on my team, Justin Gutwein, is so creative, and so he did it's called Revenue Team Therapy, and he plays the role of the head of sales, the head of marketing, the therapist, and RevOps. And they have 5 sessions with the therapist. And it was so funny. I mean, they're only a minute or 2 each, but they're like, you just want to cry. They're so funny. And so, like, just, I don't know. I'm proud of that creativity and that we took a risk. And so that's the kind of stuff that I think keeps us all going.
That's so great. I love that. And kind of shifting it to your peers and other CMOs, other C-level executives. Since this series is called CXO Conversations, I always like to ask, what type of conversations are you having with other C-level executives, with your peers, and how are stress levels changing, and priorities shifting? What's going on in that C-level space?
So it's been really we had planned a road show at the beginning of last year, and it was all about predictable revenue growth, which sounded ridiculous come March. But anywho, so we had this road show, Matt Hines and I, and we were going to all these cities and having these breakfasts, and we filled them all up, and it was great, and it was really energizing. And then we're in DC, and I'm like, I don't think that, and Sydney Sloan is canceling her Sales Loft conference. The shit is hitting the fan.
Yeah.
And so we still had like New York and Boston, a bunch of cities left, and we're like, what do we do? Like, I guess we'll do like remote breakfasts. And so we sent people Uber Eats, and we were like, we can't talk about predictable revenue growth. growth. Like moronic. Let's just talk about like what the heck we do. And I mean, the CMOs loved it, and they were like, "Let's talk again next week. Let's talk about it next week." So fast forward now, almost a year later, there's about 600 active CMOs, and about 200 over 2 meetings show up every week.
Wow.
And the reason I bring this up is we survey the group to say, what do you guys want to talk about? We want to talk about what's most relevant to you right now. And so it's been interesting to see how it's changed. So what are we talking about? We talked about account-based measurement last week. That was a fun one. Mm-hmm. We covered sales kickoff, I think the week before, because everyone's in sales kickoff mode.
Yeah.
We are covering sales enablement this week. We are teeing up mindful marketing because today I think is more challenging to just make sure, you're mindful of the environment that we're in. So those are the next couple few. And it's really interesting to see how the topics change and just what we end up talking about.
Awesome. Great stuff. Well, honestly, that's really all the questions I have for you today. This has been a really awesome conversation. Thank you so much for all of your mindful and really thoughtful answers. What's next for 6sense before we hop off?
Well, we drop, 3 features a week. So we will just continue to have a big year in terms of product and build. We've got our sales kickoff, our field kickoff, which is what we call it, next week. And so I'm stoked about that. Our theme is Agents of Change.
Awesome.
Because one of the surveys I just did with the CMO group was around who's adopted account-based. And we found that, really only a third of, 25% have. And 3/4 are either in process or haven't started it yet. So there's still a lot to be done around account-based, which is really exciting. And so, we're positioning ourselves to help people with the shift. It's not just about the technology we sell. It's also about, helping people shift their go-to-market motion. So that's going to be a big theme for next year.
Awesome. Good stuff. And it just sounds like you've got enough on your plate, so I won't take up any more of your time. Latané, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. And thank you, everyone, for watching yet another episode of CXO Conversations. Tweet me or hit me up on LinkedIn if there are any specific topics you want to hear from. And with that, I will say see you next time. Thanks, everyone.